basketball player Kevin Durant says, "Hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard." I want you to raise your hand if you have a hobby. Whether it's sports, robotics, art, or music, just raise your hand. Good, so a lot of you. Now keep your hand raised if your hobby is what you think you might want to do when you're grown up. Awesome, so still a lot of you. Okay, go ahead and put your hands down. I know you might not know what you want to do for a living yet, but I'm here to tell you that whatever it is, you'll have to work at it. A lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. In my case, my hobbies are and always have been reading and writing. Let's take a second to talk about reading. Reading is an escape from reality. I can experience things that aren't actually possible. I can explore and be adventurous, all from the comfort and safety of my own couch. Books are like portals into places beyond one's wildest beliefs. I have been a reader for as long as I can remember. When I was an infant, my mom read me the entire Little House on the Prairie series, in addition to Nancy Drew. When I was in kindergarten, my dad read me the Junie B. Jones books. One night, he wanted to stop in the middle of a chapter, so I said, "Then can I read it to myself?" "You don't know how," he replied. Little did he know, I'd been reading along with him the whole time. After he left, I finished the chapter before going to bed. Growing up, one of my other favorite books was the Magic Treehouse series. It was actually a source of inspiration for my novel, One Chance. In the Magic Treehouse series, in case you're unfamiliar with it, the two main characters travel back in time to complete missions. When I was reading this, I became fascinated by time travel. In second grade, the following year in Miss Luther's class, I really got into the Harry Potter series. The idea of a magical world with its own rules was totally captivating to me. I wanted to be like J.K. Rowling. I wanted to have the total creative freedom that comes with writing about magic and creating magical worlds. My third grade year ended up being a pivotal year for me. Mrs. Clements, my teacher, got me involved in the Battle of the Books. Around the same time, Miss Giles, her intern, was teaching the social studies unit, and for some reason, I started taking notes. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Both Miss Giles and Miss Clements noticed me doing this and encouraged me in every way. I started reading biographies, mainly the Who Was series. It was then that I began to find a love in history. In fifth grade, I decided I wanted to try my hand at writing a book. I knew I wanted to include time travel, magic, and historical fiction. However, when I decided I wanted my characters to travel through time, I had to pick a way for them to do so. I didn't want to give them powers, so instead, I created a magical stone, the Stone of Decido. The stone has a long history, which is explained early in the book. A little secret, before anyone can use the stone to change anything in their own life, they have to first fix 3 terrible events in history. That was the main idea for the story, a time-traveling stone. But One Chance is more than that. It's a story about love, friendship, family, adventure, and sacrifice. One Chance has a little bit of everything, and a little something for everyone. In essence, it's a story about a 12-year-old girl named Sandy, whose parents disappeared when she was really little. She grows up in a foster home with a really mean foster lady named Miss Evelyn. Sandy eventually has to move to an orphanage, but before she does, a new student at her school, Brian, reveals the existence of the Stone of Decido. From there, the plot starts to escalate. Lots of mysterious things start to happen, and the kids are left to figure out what's really going on and who is behind it. Eventually, Sandy and the other characters decide to travel back in time, using the stone, in order to stop Sandy's parents from ever leaving. One of the reasons the One Chance story works so well is the characters and their different personalities. I think kids like you will be able to see yourself and your friends somewhere in the story. The main characters are a dynamic group of 7 orphans. Tessa is a spunky girl who remembers everything. Rebecca is the kid who always takes charge of group projects and does all of the work. Erin is the kid with ADHD who's making everyone laugh. Brian is the student whose hand is always in the air. And then there are the twins. Nick is the kid who forgot there was homework, and Rick is the boy whose nose is always in a book. And lastly, there's Sandy, the sweetheart. But while they're all different, no character is based on any one person. They're all different, and I put a little of myself and people I know into these characters. They each have their positive traits, sure, but they also have their flaws. They're dynamic. They're real. In short, I wrote a book that I, as an avid reader, would want to read. But I originally wrote it for myself, not for anyone else. I didn't think of publishing it, not until I was almost finished. Maybe you're wondering, how did she get it published at 14? Well, it all started in 3rd grade when Miss Clements gave me a flyer for a 2-week, full-day writing summer wheelchair for a while, which, needless to say, was miserable. In October, I discovered I had appendicitis and had to have emergency surgery. But the worst part about my 5th grade year was the discovery of a life-threatening peanut allergy. People often associate allergies with sneezing during pollen season, but as I discovered, my allergy was a threat to my survival. As you can imagine, I struggled with severe anxiety. And you know what helped me get through that? Writing. Writing was the creative outlet I needed. It allowed me to fully express myself. In a world full of things I could not and still can't control, I craved something I could. Something that was in my own hands. Something where I had the freedom. Yes, I had a rough 5th grade year, but it was also the start of something. It was the start of my adventure into legitimate writing and publishing. Like I said, at the end of my 5th grade year, I published a cute little book of whimsical poetry as a thank you gift for all of my amazing teachers here at Westchase. But even more importantly, 5th grade was when I started my novel, One Chance, in a little red spiral notebook. And look where it's at today. It's being published by Bilu Books. If I hadn't gone through the struggles I had in 5th grade, I don't know if I would have had my book. So, in a way, it was all worth it. When I first wrote it, I didn't even plan it out. I came up with a basic plot and I just wrote. I let the book drive itself in the way that it wanted to go. I didn't have a method, at least not the first time I wrote it. However, once I was close to done with it, I knew I wanted to take it to the next level. I wanted to publish it, to share my story and my characters with the world. Some kids laughed and said it wouldn't be published. Some believed I could do it. After all, I'd already put out one book, right? But publishing a poetry book is very, very different from publishing a 300-page novel, which is much harder. Yet, I promised myself I would make it happen. I would get it published, whether it took 10 years, 10,000 rejections, or whether I published it on my own. I worked at it a lot. In 6th grade, I decided to rewrite the entire novel onto my computer and made quite a few changes. When 7th grade began, I felt it was time for another total rewrite. I edited it for about a whole year before I began working with 2 amazing editors. I spent the majority of my 8th grade year working for hours, every single day, to make One Chance as good as it could be. And now, it's finally out. One Chance is the first in a projected series of 10 books, 7 of which I have drafted. Just like Harry Potter, it's one story, split into several books. One Chance kicks off the series with an intense mystery, but I'll admit, it was hard to keep track of everything. So, I made chronologies for the main characters' actions, and a separate parallel chronology for all of the things that go on behind the scenes. Sorry, no spoilers. I also have several other documents to help me keep everything straight. I have files and files of character profiles, detailing each character's personality, appearance, background, and so much more. I also have a character binder with all of this information laid out, as well as 6 character poster boards with all of this information. In addition to all of this, I have a document with ages, birthdays, and seasons so I can keep track of everything. I keep track of every kid's school schedule so I know who's in what class, when, and who they're with. I even made a mock trailer in case there's a movie version of One Chance someday. Lastly, one of my most favorite and time-consuming projects, I designed and created Chanceopoly, the One Chance version of my favorite board game, Monopoly. I did get to do some cool things that most authors don't during the publishing process. For example, I was asked my opinion about the cover, so I did a competitive analysis. I compared the covers of some of my favorite books in the genre. I made lists of what I liked and what I didn't. I learned to evaluate my own opinion and take inspiration. For example, I loved the simplicity of these covers, but I also loved the intrigue of these. Originally, I wanted to have my main characters on the cover, but that was difficult because there are 7 of them. So then I suggested we should just put their hands with the stone of the seed up, but we all agreed that was too much. In the end, we decided on just having the stone of the seed up. And to think, it started as this and turned into this. While I enjoyed most of the publishing process, there are parts that weren't so much fun. The book took thousands of hours of editing because it wasn't perfect, and it needed a lot of fixing. Thus, we had to edit it over and over again, doing everything from tweaking sentences or deleting entire scenes. Editing could be described in one word: difficult. I'll be honest, I hate editing. I love to write, but editing is hard. I have to edit, drown in piles of papers, and once I'm done, I have to do it all over again. It's hard to let go of something you feel connected to. It's hard to take something away from yourself, but just like anything else, sometimes you have to make tough choices. Let's be honest, I'm not the best writer in the world. I'm not even the best writer that I know. I go to a high school where I study creative writing for 2 hours a day, and I'm surrounded by 20 other amazing writers. Some of them are better than me. I guess what I'm saying is I'm no better than them. I just work extremely hard to make my dream come true. I think, or I hope, that many of you have a thing. And if you don't, it's okay. Maybe you want to be a musician. Maybe you want to be an engineer. It doesn't matter if you want to be an athlete or an artist, a dancer or a doctor. What matters is that you set your mind to it. If there's one thing I want all of you to take away from today, it's that hard work paves the road to success. Yes, it takes time, it takes patience, and it takes drive, but it's worth it. I am living, walking proof that dreams can be turned into realities. With a little patience, a lot of hard work, and a knowledge that you really have the power to make it happen, you can do it. Thank you.